Hello everyone, and welcome to section 2 called OSINT Introduction. Here we are starting our open source intelligence journey together. As the section name suggests, this is the introductional section where we will start with the theory part of the course. We have to build an excellent theoretical foundation to proceed with the hands-on agenda. First, we will do a demystification of the term OSINT that includes different definitions and approaches to understanding open source intelligence. Here I will mention who uses OSINT and where. We will cover the main types of OSINT and how they are applied to real life. We will also talk about the ethical side of OSINT because many questions can and probably will show up while conducting your OSINT investigations. My advice is always to consult yourself with a lawyer or a legal team and to protect yourself or your company with a contract when conducting cybersecurity activities in general for customers. In a video after demystification called the OSINT Cycle Overview, we will cover the OSINT steps that each investigation is consisted of. And for the last lesson, we will go through the OSINT threats and some countermeasures that you can act to improve your company's or your personal cyber posture. Let's start demystifying open source intelligence with a simple definition. It goes: open source intelligence, or OSINT, is any intelligence produced from publicly available information collected, exploited, and disseminated in a timely manner to an appropriate audience to address a specific intelligence requirement. Immediately inside this definition, I would like to further explain the words open source, intelligence, and disseminated. When you hear about open source, a lot of people immediately think about free service, free software, or data. Open source in the context of open source intelligence does not in any way relate to open source software. Rather, open source means the type of data and information that is acquired from public sources. They could be anything from television and print newspapers to blogs and websites, social media, research papers, business and sales documents, and anything you can find online or offline. We will focus on the online or the internet side of data gathering. The term intelligence has evolved over the years, from military intelligence over business intelligence to cyber intelligence. They are all wrapped around information that is relevant for some decision making. And disseminated, when I encountered this word, I was not aware of its meaning since English language is not my first language. But it basically means reporting, to spread relevant information you found and put it in the context for your customer or a client on which he or her can make an informed decision. Besides that, OSINT is a continuous process of gathering, processing, analyzing, sharing, and getting feedback about some subject. Now, I would like to share a cool fact that is relevant to open source intelligence investigations. Over 70% of pen testing work goes out to the reconnaissance and the OSINT phase. As you are maybe aware, pen testing, or penetration testing for a longer title, is a task when a cybersecurity expert or a pen tester attempts to find and actively exploit a vulnerability in a computer system. You can say it is an authorized simulated cyber attack on some company or an organization's IT system to evaluate the security of the system. This task requires a proper preparation with the reconnaissance phase and the open source intelligence tools and techniques that are the go-to methods for penetration testers. The answer to a question who uses OSINT is quite wide, and I will tell you in a moment why is that. But I would narrow it down to 6 or 7 groups of people and businesses. First, I would mention IT people, because I'm essentially an IT guy. I put hackers in the parentheses here because they are also IT people, only their end results are not good for anyone. The main thing here is that you are aware that all that data and information that you can gather and use to protect yourself or your organization, the bad guys can also acquire them. Hackers do their homework when picking a target, often relying on information left publicly exposed to make decisions about how to attack. Whether an OSINT researcher is a hacker looking for vulnerabilities to exploit or an analyst assessing exposure, their core task is to combine public data into an intimate understanding of a business target. Next is military, whose decision making is mostly based on intelligence. And here is also the open source intelligence model. Just check out any military or an agency site and look for open source intelligence in there. They all have similar definitions, what open source intelligence is. After military, I have to mention law enforcement and private investigators whose work depends a lot on good intelligence, and in our case, that is open source intelligence. Then I have to mention companies and their employees. It doesn't matter if we are talking about the marketing, sales, or human resources, they all use different open source intelligence techniques to acquire information on which they will do their decision making. Most of the time, they aren't even aware that they are using OSINT in the first place. Also, there are parents and teachers. I personally encourage them to use open source intelligence knowledge to guide them about social media and networks in which their children are potentially involved in. And lastly, I would say that every person who uses a search engine is doing some kind of OSINT. I will give you an example. You are planning your summer holidays vacation and you are looking a good place to stay somewhere. Well, you will probably go to Google and look for that place. Check its reviews, maybe also check different sources to see are the stories and reviews about the place aligned with each other. All that searching and gathering of relevant information from the internet is an OSINT technique. Simple as that. What are the types of OSINT? I would list two main types, but also another two that are involved in this type of engaging the target: offensive, defensive, active, and passive approach to open source intelligence. Offensive OSINT is just that. Someone is collecting and using all that available data and information about you or your organization to do you harm, just as planning to conduct a cyber attack based on some learned information. I will give you a simple example. Just as a side note, I realize that people who are using or planning to use these OSINT techniques and methods for malicious purposes will attend to this course as well. We can now have a debate, is this a good or a bad approach to learn OSINT? But my opinion is if someone wishes to do harm, he or she will learn it anyway. But if this knowledge could be used in good purposes, and I think that is the majority, then I think it is worth it to release this knowledge to the public. But to get back to our offensive example, phishing is probably the simplest example. Let's say your target loves tennis, plays it recreationally, maybe they did some competition in the past, he or she really enjoys tennis, and they receive a very well formulated email that contains an invite to a tennis event that the target wanted to visit. That invite is of course an attachment. The target will probably click on it and by that execute whatever malicious purpose the attack had, just like a ransomware. To sum up, the offensive open source intelligence gives the bad guys a good starting point to prepare their cyber attack. Back to our types of OSINT. The defensive OSINT gives you a good possibility to learn anything that could be used by the bad guys. Here you can also learn what is exposed out there, because your worry isn't just the hackers. Back to our types of OSINT. The defensive OSINT gives you a good possibility to learn anything that could be used by the bad guys. Here you can also learn what is exposed out there, because your worry isn't just the hackers. Maybe you have an exposed database out there which may or may not contain highly classified information, or there's an exposed device which could potentially be a backdoor into your IT system. Data leaks are just that. Usually something gets available on the internet by mistake, an unprotected server or database. The next two types which I listed here is the active and passive approach to open source intelligence. As their names suggest, active is the type of OSINT which leaves digital footprints of your investigations. A typical example would be if you are using a port scanner, but that scanning is logged by the target system and the ISP. The result of an active approach are more accurate than the passive one, but the price is visibility. Or better to say, lack of invisibility while conducting that kind of investigation. Concerning the passive approach, I always remember the Kali Linux operating system motto: the quieter you become, the more you are able to hear. and that is probably an axiom regarding cybersecurity. Allow me to give you an example. A simple search engine activity is pretty quiet. Allow me to give you an example. A simple search engine usage is pretty quiet if you wish to enumerate the IT system exposure of the target. You may also do that with a third service like Shodan or Census. We can freely say that they are a goldmine services that we will cover later in the course. Now I would just like to make you aware of the cyber kill chain that was developed by Lockheed Martin. Since open source intelligence is used in almost every cyber process, I think that this developed kill chain makes a good view and understanding of the full cyber picture. The cyber kill chain is created to help organizations develop and improve their defense in-depth strategies to fight advanced persistent threats. There are 7 main steps through which a cyber criminal must go through to execute a cyber attack. The first step is reconnaissance, which includes open source intelligence activities. This is just like in the previously mentioned pen testing process. This involves learning about the target by harvesting email addresses, gathering information, using different OSINT techniques and methods. The second step is called weaponization, and as its name suggests, this is coupling exploitation of vulnerabilities with remote access malware into a deliverable payload. Then the stage of delivery comes to play, where the previously mentioned weapons are sent to the target via the web, email, USB, or by some other social engineering tactic. After delivery comes the stage of exploitation, where the delivered goods, actually malicious payload, use the discovered vulnerability to execute code on a victim's system. The fifth stage is installation, where installing remote access malware on the target asset is being done. Here we can talk about a victim's workstation or a server or some other device. In the sixth stage, called command and control, this is the stage where, for an example, an outside server is communicating with the deployed weapons inside the target's network and by that providing a continuous access to the system. And finally, actions on objectives. This is the last stage where the original objective is being achieved. That last stage can include exfiltration or destruction of data, or intrusion of another target. I recommend checking this cyber kill chain in more detail, because with a better understanding of this methodology, you will gain a better insight into how OSINT and its related cyber topics can and are used in the real world. Now we come to the question or statement, or whatever you want to call it, ethics behind OSINT. A question of ethics in the context of open source intelligence has the potential to become a really long debate. And that is without the legal side that is even more important with the questions. Uh, like, is my OSINT work even legal and can I get in trouble for doing this? Well, I can only give you advice how to proceed with this topic. As I have said before, and probably will repeat this in the later lessons, always consult a lawyer or a legal team when conducting this kind of investigations, because you can get logged and maybe get yourself digitally in the wrong place, but all that can happen at a good time to be blamed for something that you wasn't even aware that could happen. I put a picture of a shady alley where 2 persons meet, and I think that to some extent this represents the modus operandi of some OSINT techniques. I can give you a good example. While you do your OSINT investigation for some company or a customer, you encounter an exposed database which is clearly classified as secret and confidential. Probably that kind of finding is not just a question of ethics, will you use it? It can become a legal question with which you can get in some serious trouble. What will you do? Will you immediately notify the database owner to make them aware that they have a data leak like this, but in a discreet way, or will you use it to some advantage? Well, the answer here is more than evident if you're a good guy. Again, please be careful while conducting your open source intelligence investigations. If you got a bad, if you get a feeling you are doing something you weren't supposed to do, or simply have a bad feeling about something, then that is probably true. Always consult yourself with a legal team to be sure. And now in the next video we will cover the open source intelligence cycle, where you will get a greater insight how the whole OSINT investigation looks like. So see you in the next video. Hi guys, and welcome back. We are still in our theoretical journey through open source intelligence, and after the ethics behind OSINT topic in the last video, now we are going to go through the steps of the open source intelligence cycle. This cycle usually involves 4 to 6 steps, but I always use the 5-step approach because I think it explains and covers it best. The stages included in this cycle makes up a complete process of developing raw data and information into finished intelligence for your customer or a client to use in their decision-making process. The 5 steps are planning, collection, processing, and exploitation, analysis, and dissemination. The first stage of the OSINT cycle, called planning, is probably the most important one. If you're asking me why, I have a few arguments which can confirm this model of thinking. One is, if you do not know what is the purpose of your investigation, then the whole effort is futile. There is a great quote by the American President Abraham Lincoln. He said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe." I think this quote paints a great picture of the planning stage in the OSINT cycle. A thing to think about is, which possible tools or vectors of investigation will you use? For example, would you use, besides the internet tools, maybe some physical activities like interacting with people related to the target, or going to the library to do some research? The planning stage is probably the most important one, since it involves the management of the entire intelligence effort. The second stage of OSINT cycle is collection. As the name suggests, this stage includes activities like research, data gathering, information harvesting, and so forth. In the previous stage, you made a plan, what you want to do, what you want to find out, and what tools will you use to acquire that information. And in this stage, you will do the actual groundwork. From my personal experience, I always have a plan, but that plans get tweaked along the way, since I get new ideas or find some better tools to conduct my activities. There is more than one sort of intelligence, and these sources span the different collection disciplines named as HUMINT, which stands for Human Intelligence, then GEOINT for Geospatial, where data is gathered from satellite and different aerial photography sources. Then we have MASINT, which stands for Measurement and Signature Intelligence. OSINT, as an open source intelligence source, is also a part of these disciplines. There are others, and I encourage you to do a simple search on Wikipedia to learn more about them. Now let's move on to the third stage of OSINT cycle, called processing and exploitation. In this stage, you will start to sort out the previously gathered data and information. Processing may include such activities as translation and reduction of intercepted messages into written format to permit detailed analysis and comparison with other information. A simple example would be to conduct a translation of raw intelligence materials from a foreign language. Other types of processing include video production, photographic processing, and correlation of information collected by technical intelligence platforms. The fourth stage, called analysis, establishes the significance and implications of processed intelligence, integrates it by combining disparate pieces of information to identify collateral information and patterns, then interprets the significance of any newly developed knowledge. So this process also consists of identifying, prioritizing, and validating intelligence requirements, translating those requirements into observables, preparing collection plans, issuing requests for information collection, production, and dissemination, and continuously monitoring the availability of collected data. This stage makes a fusion of all previously mentioned stages of the OSINT cycle. And finally, the final stage named dissemination. I have previously mentioned that dissemination basically means reporting, and I will give you a more official description of it. Dissemination is the conveyance of intelligence to the consumer in a usable form. This means that this report has to include all the relevant information that answers the initial questions of the investigation. It also has to be comprehensible so the customer or a client can make an informed decision based on the report you provided. Just to touch on how, or better to say on what media you will share this report. I provide my reports digitally on an encrypted storage device protected by a password that is shared on the meeting with the customer. The final phase is the ultimate confirmation of your investigations. After we covered the OSINT cycle, where you hopefully got a better understanding how to approach an OSINT investigation, we will jump into the open source threats and countermeasures overview part, so see you in the next video. Hi and welcome to the last video of this section called OSINT Threats and Countermeasures. This is a more advice-like approach to OSINT, where I will bring up different threats and countermeasures you can use to address open source intelligence questions. Just to be clear, there are a lot more threats and countermeasures out there than we will mention here, but as always in any approach, a good starting point makes a difference when things get more complicated. First, let's talk about threats. Probably on this slide you are seeing some familiar things, but please allow me to go through each one of them. First is hacking. I won't go into the etymology of the word, rather to simply explain this threat. So hacking is a set of skills and methods for breaching defenses of a computer system, a network, or a human. Although hacking does not have to mean something bad, but nowadays most references to hacking and hackers goes to the unlawful activities of cyber criminals whose motivation could be financial gain, political protest, information gathering, aka spying, and similar things. OSINT is very important here because based on the OSINT research, these hacking activities can get pretty much successful. Next is social engineering. This is one of my favorite topics because it correlates to the previous OSINT threats of hacking humans that I have mentioned. Social engineering is the psychological manipulation of people into performing actions or divulging confidential information. Here is where the word manipulation got its bad reputation. Actually, what I'm doing now is manipulating you. We're talking and presenting about open source intelligence. The difference is that my goals are not malicious. So everything is manipulation. It just depends what kind of looking glass are you using, good or bad. After social engineering comes phishing, which is almost a natural extent of social engineering because it's a method where fraudulent attempt is made to obtain sensitive information in an electronic communication. You probably get this kind of emails on a daily basis, only you don't respond to them or your email protection is doing a really good job. I want to share a phishing email example on which I almost fell for recently. I got a cPanel notification that my email inbox was full. That email is a part of some other system that I use, and I usually get this kind of messages once every 6 months or so. My first reaction is to connect to the cPanel to check my inbox storage. I did this not by clicking on the link in the email, and that is one of the countermeasures I can give out right now. Never click, rather go and log in separately to some service. So I logged in my cPanel server and saw that my inbox was not full at all. Then it got clear to me. What a great phishing email. As you can see the sender, it does not compute and it is fake. Our fourth big threat is malware. So malware is a software that is intentionally hostile, intrusive or damaging to a computer or network. You have probably heard of malware like viruses, ransomware, rootkits, spyware and so forth. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. The key thing here is that malware is usually deployed or delivered through methods from the previous mentioned OSINT threats, social engineering and phishing. Next are data and information breaches and leaks. I tried to separate data from information here, and please allow me to tell you what is the difference between data and information through an example. Here are the numbers: 2, 6, 7, 22, 31, and 46. Do these numbers mean anything to you? The chances are very slim that they do. So these numbers that I have just said are just that, numbers, some values, and for them we can say that they are data. These numbers are pretty worthless, and that's data. Data does not have any meaning and it doesn't have some real value. But what if I told you that these numbers are the next winning lottery numbers? Now this data becomes information, and a very valuable information, if I might add. That is the difference. The context. Information is data, but with context around it. And now to get back to our data and information breaches and leaks. A data breach is the intentional or unintentional release of secure or of private/confidential information to an untrusted environment. That untrusted environment is of course the public internet realm. As you know, breaches and leaks are almost a weekly thing now. They happen as a targeted intentional activity, like a planned cyber attack, and they happen unintentionally, like exposing some database or a server on the internet with a weak or default password. The last threat that I have listed here, although there are a lot of others out there, is misinformation and disinformation. These are false rumors, insults, pranks, hoaxes, and different propaganda from different sources, like social media. And also, as our previous threat, they can be accidental or deliberate. Misinformation and disinformation are not the same things, and people have the tendency to use these words as synonyms. Please allow me to explain the difference. Misinformation is when people spread or share some information for which they believe is true. A simple example of misinformation is saying that the earth is flat. And disinformation is shared with the goal of misleading others and doing some harm with the intentional wrong information. A typical example of disinformation are the fake news phenomena. Allow me to provide you with an example. If you remember the unfortunate big Notre Dame fire in 2019, when it happened, people uploaded videos to YouTube, and YouTube classified this video material as fake and did not announce and spread the news as they should have. It took about an hour for the YouTube engineers to sort this problem out. Here, a machine made a mistake, but only because humans gave him instructions what to do. So we can be free to say that humans spread disinformation about this. So we can be free to say that humans spread the disinformation about this. Now to talk about the open source countermeasures, or to better say, what can we do to protect ourselves or our organizations. I have listed in my opinion 6 the most important things we can all do. First is education, parentheses, and testing. Educating employees and yourself how to successfully address cybersecurity threats by conducting continuous awareness trainings and email phishing tests. I really think that through education we have a chance to make a world and our IT system a better and a safer place. I have also included testing because through testing like phishing testing, which I conduct, you can get a great insight how good is your cyber posture. Next is online privacy hygiene. Here, since open source intelligence main source of information is the internet, and there you can find endless amounts of anything on anyone just because their online privacy hygiene is not that good. This includes careful sharing and posting personal information online using a safer web browser like Firefox and Brave. Also using privacy and security web browser extensions. For example, HTTPS Everywhere extension that forces you to only visit HTTPS websites. Then maybe using disposable email services like 33mail.com. This is a service which allows you not to give out your real email every time some service or someone wants your real email. Rather, use a great forwarding alias. After that, I have to mention using a virtual private network or VPN to protect your online identity. A great example is Proton VPN. It looks like it is secure, it has a no-log policy, and it is fast. And my favorite thing about Proton VPN is that they're a company based in Switzerland. Then be sure to use an antivirus software. I personally use F-Secure for this and have good experience with it. My advice on antivirus is it is better to use the inbuilt one or a free antivirus than no kind at all. I also have to mention the IT system security hardening. This is dedicated to making your IT system harder to hack. You should surely use the antivirus software. After that, a firewall. Actually, today's next generation firewalls have antivirus engines included in themselves, so I encourage you to check that also. Then the use of VPNs, encryption. Make regular software updates because hackers use vulnerabilities of a system and a software to get in. Do appropriate network security like a use of a good Wi-Fi password or port-based network access policies, the 802.1x standard. Also, do not forget about physical security like access control, cameras. Even simply putting a webcam cover is a good physical and privacy habit. A next countermeasure is password management, and by that I mean on the procedure of where are the passwords stored, how they look like, are they complex enough, and how are they used. Using a password manager makes all the difference. A good example is the password manager called KeePass XC. This is an open source cross-platform password manager which you can use on all the platforms to store your most valuable logins. It also generates passwords, so you don't have to worry about making passwords up. You only have to remember one big password and that is it. I could make a separate course for passwords, but I will give you just one advice when you create your passwords. Use a passphrase. Just search it on the web. The last two countermeasures, ITSS discovery and leaks and breaches monitoring, are actually very much tied together because a leak or a breach usually happens if your assets get exposed on the internet. You can and should conduct at least yearly discovery scans of your IT assets. A software used for that is an example, Nmap. I think that your personal information is also an asset, but here we focus only on the system side of assets. Monitoring of leaks and breaches is also very important. With these methods and techniques, you can do a cross-referencing of email addresses and usernames to check have you or your company been a part of some data leak or a breach. I have to put a little disclaimer here because this info is only for educational purposes. The main reason is because all this publicly available content concerning leaks and data breaches was acquired by criminals. I cannot give you legal advice on this since I'm not an attorney, but I can make a suggestion to be careful and to ask for advice if you come across something potentially harmful for you and people around you. I will mention a few of the online sources for this kind of information. First is Have I Been Pwned, which is probably the golden standard nowadays to check if your email or a username has been a part of any known data breach. After that is leakpeak.com, which is a UK site, or at least that's what they say they are, and I like this one because you can also search for an email or a username and it will show you the first three characters of a password and from which database/breach it comes from. After that I will mention WikiInfo.com, which is a very popular service that grants you to see password details if you pay, which I wouldn't recommend. Currently, this site is not active because the domain has been seized by the FBI. I put this on the list just for you to understand the seriousness of this kind of sites and data you are after. And also, I will mention ghostproject.fr. According to the owners, we are talking about the 41 gigabyte dump that was found in late 2017 in an underground community forum. You can search for emails or usernames and they will come with a clear text password if available. Also, there is a paid version to see the whole data, which I also wouldn't recommend for you to check out in that way. Almost all of these sites offer a paid feature to unlock maybe passwords, usernames, emails, give you out some advanced search filters, and so on. Personally speaking, I would not recommend paying for access to any of these data because of the privacy and security issues that could arrive at your table. Be aware of the legal repercussions because learning how to search for these data is totally different from using that found data to access someone's account or do any other malicious activity. All these countermeasures are not things that can be implemented very fast, especially if you are building a security-aware company through employee education. The main thing here is that these often little changes in your cyber habits makes it exponentially harder for the hackers to even approach your IT system. A typical example is a good long password. Now for the OSINT countermeasures, I would like to share two cool sources of tool lists. This is used not only for your OSINT investigations, but also as a countermeasure method. They are called the OSINTframework.com and FaganFinder.com. Now allow me to show you how each of these web OSINT resources look like. First, the website OSINTframework.com, which was created by Mr. Justin Nordin. In your favorite OSINT browser, in my case is the Brave browser, go to the OSINTframework.com address. As you can see here, when you click on any of the categories like the username, email addresses, domain name, a lot of useful resources will appear on the screen in the form of a subtree. In my example, I am interested in the host discovery, so I will choose IP addresses, host/port discovery, and one of the tools listed is the Nmap, which we discussed earlier. When you click on the target, searching for users, email addresses, IP addresses, or social network details becomes super easy as you have all the tools available in one single interface. It's just like a giant OSINT bookmarks library. The second web resource, is called FaganFinder.com. That was developed by Mr. Michael Fagan. I will cite the description from the website. Fagan Finder page brings together the largest, broadest, and most significant tools for finding information. The focus here is on resources anyone can access, but also included are imported ones that are restricted, such as with fees or to members of a library. And as I have said, these both resources are used for the investigation part of OSINT and the countermeasures part to protect yourselves. I hope I gave you a good understanding of the introduction part of open source intelligence. As you can see, there are a lot of things to consider here, especially when you get in the tools and techniques phase of your investigations. That could easily become a potential rabbit hole because you can get easily lost in the vast data you can acquire. Now we are going to start with the first hands-on approach, or better to say a lab, with the section Environment Preparation, where we will install and prepare our operating system to do investigations in the correct way. See you in the next video.
Did you know that you can be part of the lucrative cybersecurity industry? Even top companies like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, IBM, Facebook, and Dell all hire cybersecurity professionals. The cybersecurity industry has a 0% unemployment rate. The average salary for an entry-level cybersecurity job is about $100,000 per year in the United States. Furthermore, you don't need to know coding and learn from your home, and you get a scholarship to kickstart your career. Apply now. EC Council is pledging a $3.5 million CCT scholarship for cybersecurity career starters. Scan the QR code on the screen to apply for the scholarship. Fill out the form.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the section number 3 called Environment Preparation. Here we are starting our open source intelligence hands-on part of the course. I believe you are ready to start this section of the course after the theoretical agenda we went through in the last videos. This section only consists of 2 videos, but you will shortly see that they are not to take for an easy matter to conduct or to discuss. The first one is called Configuring OSINT Virtual Machine, where we will do a hardware configuration of our virtual machine, and in the second one, called Configuring OSINT Operating System, we will do a software configuration of our installed operating system. I will spoil a little bit now. The operating system that we will cover in this context of open source intelligence is Linux, and it is not Kali Linux, as you may have presumed. Welcome back. Here we are in our first video of section 3 called Configuring OSINT Virtual Machine. Here we will download and install our virtual machine with its prerequisites. Of course, the best way would be to have a dedicated physical machine for doing our OSINT investigations. Still, with a little help of virtualization technology, we can create our dedicated virtual machine on top of our real hardware machine and operating system and use it just like a dedicated one. To be clear with the terminology before we go, concerning software virtualization, we have a hypervisor, a host, and a guest OS or a guest machine. Now let's demystify these terms. Virtualization software is called a hypervisor. In our case, this will be a hypervisor called VirtualBox. That is a completely free virtualization software from Oracle, and it's easy to operate. There are also different free and paid hypervisor flavors out there, like VMware Workstation or Microsoft's Hyper-V. So, a host is called a computer that is the host of the VirtualBox hypervisor. Also, in your case, that will be your computer with its operating system. In my case, and in this video, that is a MacBook with macOS Mojave operating system. Just as a side note, I still haven't upgraded to Catalina because of some apps that still don't work on the new macOS version. And the last term to demystify is the term guest OS. That is the operating system we will install inside, or better to say on top of our computer and VirtualBox. So we will talk about Ubuntu, our OSINT machine that will be the guest OS. A great thing about virtualization is that you can do all kinds of things in your virtual machine, like download viruses, try different configurations and break them, test programs and visit dangerous sites, and after that, with the feature called Snapshot, you can simply revert to the original setting like nothing happened. There are a few things to consider before approaching this, like for the machine to be isolated network-wise, so it can't access your host or your real network. But we will clear all that as we go and configure our virtual machine. Now let's download and install everything that is needed to install and run our OSINT virtual machine. First up is the virtualization software called VirtualBox. You can find that on the site address virtualbox.org. As you can see, we are going to fire up our Brave browser, go to the site, and when you're on the site, go to the download section. And here you can download the appropriate version for your computer operating system. As I have mentioned, in my case, that we are talking about the Mac OS, so I will choose the OS X hosts version. Click download and install VirtualBox. Now, after the installation and before firing up VirtualBox, we need to download the Ubuntu operating system image, or the OSI file. You can easily Google your way to the Ubuntu download link, so we're going to do just that. As you can see, you need to pick the desktop version and download it. Just be sure you are on the official Ubuntu webpage, which contains the ISO installation file. If you're wondering why am I not using a security operating system like Kali Linux, my answer would be, I like having a more straightforward and cleaner machine without the pre-built apps and software that I'm not familiar with. It just gives me better control over my security and privacy, because we need to be very private when doing our OSINT investigations. I also use Kali Linux just for other purposes. I definitely encourage you to check it out on the official kali.org address. Okay, now we are ready to fire up our VirtualBox. Here it is. In my version, I already have some virtual machine installed, but please disregard them. As you see, they are inaccessible because I use an external disk for their hard drives that are not connected to my computer. So, pick New, provide the name of the virtual machine. We'll call it OSINT Ubuntu 20 because of the version of Ubuntu Linux. I will leave the machine folder default, but I will change the version of the operating system. And since our version is Ubuntu, I will choose the Debian 64-bit version. I didn't choose Ubuntu because I found that the virtual machine works better this way. Also, as a side note, in regard to the machine folder, here you can pick some other location, like your external disk if you have a space issue. I always have that issue, so external drives are great for that. Just be sure that you are just be sure that all at just be sure that your all external drives are at least USB 3 compatible because of the speed. Virtual machines hard disk will run from that external disk, and it needs to be quick. I've seen a typo here. Again, let's make it Debian. Okay, now let's choose the memory size, which will be dedicated to the Ubuntu. I usually go with half of my host's memory, so I will choose 4 gigabytes. That's 4096 megabytes. For the hard disk, choose the creation of a new one, as this is a brand new machine. And finally, press Create to proceed. Now we have to choose the disk properties. I will use my default location, and instead of the default value of 8 gigabytes for the hard drive, I will use 10 gigabytes. For storage, because the installation requires a little bit over 8, so 8 is insufficient. Of course, more is always better. If you can, put down at least 20 gigabytes, but for our demo, I will use the value of 10 gigabytes. Choose the default options for the hard disk type and the storage on the physical disk. Dynamically allocated means that the virtual machine's disk won't take 10 gigabytes at once, rather dynamically as it grows, but with a 10 gigabyte limit. And press Create. After the creation of our virtual machine template, you can see it here in VirtualBox. It's powered off and its current state. It is still clean without the operating system. Now we have to do the configuration of the hardware settings of the virtual machine. So, click Settings, Storage, and in the controller IDE, load the previously downloaded Ubuntu ISO file as the installation media. And press OK. Now it's time to turn on our virtual machine. But just before before we do that, there are a couple of things we need to do to be more secure from the network perspective. I would recommend for you to use on your host machine, the real computer, a VPN which should be always turned on. Because we will configure the network settings of our virtual machine in a way that it uses the host's network through NAT, or network address translation. This means when I have VPN turned on prior to starting the machine, it will use the VPN of my host, and that is a good thing, since we do not wish to use our hosted machine on our real home/office network. As you can see, my VPN is on. I previously mentioned two VPNs, Proton VPN and F-Secure's Freedom. Just to check the settings, the network settings of the machine. Are we using NAT? Yes, that's okay. And another thing for the convenience part, let's create a shared folder between the guest OS and the host machine so we can be more efficient in moving files between the two. Select settings, check the advanced, so we can be more efficient in drag and dropping and with the shared clipboard. Bidirectional, choose the shared clipboard to be bidirectional, also drag and drop to be bidirectional. And in the share folders tab, add with the plus sign a new folder path. I will create a new folder, call it us into Ubuntu 20 share, use that, make it auto mount, and OK. This is just the preparation for the shared folder configuration, because we will finish up the configuration when we install Ubuntu. Now let's fire up our virtual machine. Select the correct virtual machine and press start. Here it is. You can disregard these messages. Now the configuration installation is checking disks. We can skip this, but always leave it to check the file system. Okay, now we are at our first install screen, the welcome screen, where we can choose our installation language. I will choose English because actually I wouldn't recommend taking some other from personal experience. If I take my, let's say, domestic Hrvatski Croatian language, when I encounter a problem and I try to Google it, I have a lot of difficulties to solve the problem, because the problem is, I have to translate the problem, and sometimes as simple as that, words doesn't match, the translation is not good. So we have an option to try Ubuntu or install Ubuntu. We decided prior to this installation that we will install Ubuntu on the newly created virtual machine. So press install, pick the default keyboard layout. We will add that later on. As you can see, we will pick the normal installation, and since we have the connection to the internet, and we will allow Ubuntu to download updates since we have internet access, and also we will pick to install third-party software for graphics and Wi-Fi hardware and additional media formats, and press continue. Yes, we will erase disks and install Ubuntu. Install now. Confirm the changes. So this is a virtual disk. You don't have to be afraid if something goes wrong. You can always revert, start over, or something. You have to choose the appropriate time zone. So we have to provide an account name. We will say, my name is Osint. My computer name will be Osint Ubuntu. My username will be Osint also, and I will choose a password. And so the installation begins. Depending on the speed of your computer, your disks, this could take a few minutes. We are almost there with the copying. Now we are installing. Also, don't forget that we have selected to download the updates and apply them. So this also depends on your internet connection. This also depends on your internet connection. When the installation is complete, click Restart Now. And yes, don't forget to remove the installation medium. We will do that right away. I usually turn off the machine, power off, and remove the medium in the storage area completely because I do not need it anymore. I see that it is empty, so that's fine. Okay, and start the machine again. Here is the boot up installation screen. Here is after the installation, here's our boot screen. We wrote down our login information previously, so that wouldn't be a problem. Actually, I had a few situations where I needed to create a virtual machine quickly, and when I was done with the installation, I just simply could not remember the login. So that could be avoided if you write it down. For the default online accounts, press skip. Next. Would you like to send this information? No, do not send. System info. Next. We will not choose the location services. And press done. If you get prompted to install updates, be free to click Remind Me Later. So, now we have a functioning virtual machine that contains the basic programs for everyday usage and for you to surf the internet. And as you may remember, it is currently using the VPN of our host machine, so we do not need to bother with the network privacy in that context. Now we will just do a couple of things before we continue to our next video lesson, where we will configure the operating system. We will have to fully make use of our virtual machine, we should install VirtualBox's guest additions software. This will allow us to have better resolution, make the use of copy-paste options from the host to the Ubuntu virtual machine, and other conveniences. We have to go to the VirtualBox menu, select Devices, and select Insert Guest Additions CD Image. Click Run to start, and put in the password. Allow the process to complete. Again with the password. If this happens, be free to say yes. Now we need to restart the VM. Now that we are logged back in, we can check are the VirtualBox guest additions installed correctly. We can test, or you can test this by resizing the screen. If the screen resizes correctly, that means it is functioning. If something went wrong with the resizing, that means that you do not have installed you didn't install the guest additions correctly, so you can repeat the whole process again. Now you can be free to shut down the VM, our Ubuntu, and after we power it off, we will just check is the shared clipboard and drag and drop options set correctly. We did them, but just to check. Yes, shared clipboard is bidirectional, drag and drop bidirectional, and the shared folders, yes, it is set correctly. Because we will do some configuration in the next lesson when we access our operating system. Okay, We downloaded, installed, and done the hardware part of virtualization with the VirtualBox and the Ubuntu operating system installation itself. In the next video, we will configure our OSINT operating system so we can use it fully as an OSINT investigation machine. We will configure our privacy options, configure management, configure browsers, add missing libraries, apps, and so forth. So see you in the next video. Hi, and welcome back to our environment preparation section, video number 2, called Configuring OSINT Operating System. In this video, we will go through the basic configuration and basic installation of needed software to start with our OSINT investigation. Actually, we will also do some of the tweaks on the virtual machine level, but only to make our virtual experience better. If you remember, we did a power off in the last video, so we will need to start our virtual machine. And now, before we can test does the shared folder work, we have to add our user to the correct group for permissions. As you can see, we can see the shared folder with the host machine, but we do not have the correct permissions. So, in the applications, go to terminal, and type sudo add user OSINT, which is our user, and add it to the VBox SF group. Type in the sudo password, try it again, and if it still doesn't work with the permissions, you have to restart the virtual machine. We did that, and now we will check it again. Our shared folder. As you can see, here's our test. You can copy it to your desktop and vice versa. Now we will personalize our machine a little bit. So to personalize, go to the settings. Simply right-click the desktop, choose Settings. First go to the Notifications option and disable the lock screen notifications, not to bother you. Also go to the Privacy and then turn off and then on the Screen Lock option, turn off the automatic screen lock. Turn off the lock screen or suspend option. And just to be sure, the blank screen delay, a period of inactivity after which the screen will go blank, set it to never. Of course, this is all optional. And now go back to the power options. Now here with the power saving on the black screen, put to never. And on suspended power button, automatic suspend. When on battery power, turn it off. Because you wouldn't like for your virtual machine to suspend itself while you conduct some investigation or you run some tool script. Now we'll go back to our desktop and see the dock on the left. You can customize the dock and remove unnecessary things like For instance, Thunderbird Mail. Right-click it, remove from favorites. Also, Rhythmbox, right-click, remove from favorites. Then LibreOffice. And for last, we did not eject that virtual Actually, we did not eject the guest edition CD image, but we can do it right now. Right click and choose eject. Actually, two things I like to have in my dock, and they are not here. They are the terminal and the software updater. Simply go to show applications, go to terminal, right click it, add to favorites to add it to the dock. Also do that for the software updater. Right click, add to favorites. Okay. And you can see them on the dock now. Regarding the software updater, in that way you can check for updates on a weekly basis. That said, I will mention the snapshot feature now, because updates are things that change the configuration and have a great potential to break something in your virtual machine, your operating system. Maybe you recall from before, but we mentioned the snapshot feature of VirtualBox, where you can use that feature to save your current state of operating system and revert to that state at any time later. Let me show you. Let's shut down our virtual machine completely. Power off. Okay, it's powered off. Now, as you can see, when our virtual machine is selected, we can press on the plus sign, take snapshot. Of course, you can put enter a name or some note. I usually put MOM, which stands for Main OSINT Machine. And for a description, I usually put what's the state of the machine. Optionally, if you ever want to remove a snapshot, simply use the icon with the red X for delete. This is the current state. This will remove data files to eliminate wasted space, but you cannot restore to that image once removed. It will not impact the current machine state. Many users remove old unused snapshots after creating newer stable machines. Okay, now that our machine is turned off, we will do some management configuration. I have mentioned before that I like to access my Ubuntu via SSH from the host machine. That requires some configuration on the virtual machine settings and on the operating system. Let's do the VirtualBox configuration first. Go to the VirtualBox settings, virtual machines settings, the network tab, advanced, then click on port forwarding. Here you will enter the virtual machine's IP address and your local host's IP address to properly forward the port you wish to access on the operating system Ubuntu. Choose the plus sign. So, the protocol is TCP. Host IP is 127.0.0.1. And that is the local host IP address of my host machine. The local loopback mechanism may be used to run a network service on a host without requiring a physical network interface, or without making the service accessible from the networks the computer may be connected to. That IP address is 127.0.0.1. After that, the host port, which I'll put down 2222. It can be anything in the TCP range from 1 to 65535. I will put 2222 since the SSH port number is 22, so I can remember it more easily. Then the guest IP address, that's the IP address of the Ubuntu. And since I know that the default IP address of NAT VirtualBox guest IP, and that's 10.0.2.15, and lastly, I have to put the guest port. That's 22 since we want to access the SSH port on our Ubuntu. You can easily check the guest IP on the operating system itself through graphical interface or the terminal. I encourage you to check that out by yourself. Press OK. Again, OK. OK, the settings are saved. And now let's fire up our Ubuntu machine. Okay, we turned our machine on and we have to log in. We have to go to the terminal to check the SSH service on the virtual machine. Actually, we have to configure it to work so we can even access it from the host. So to install SSH, execute these commands: sudo apt update, your sudo password, after that sudo apt install OpenSSH minus server, press enter. Yes, we want to continue to install it. Okay, as you can see, Once the installation is completed, the SSH service will start automatically. You can verify that SSH is running by typing, first let's clear our screen a little bit, by typing sudo systemctl status SSH. As you can see, the service is loaded and active. It's running. This output should tell you that the service is running and enabled to start on system boot, on the next boot. Also, Ubuntu ships with a firewall configuration tool called UFW. If the firewall is enabled on your system, make sure to open the SSH port. So we will open it anyway by typing sudo UFW allow SSH. Okay, great. That's it. You can now connect to your Ubuntu system via SSH from your host machine. Let's try it out now. This is the terminal. This is the terminal on my host machine, my MacBook. So, to connect to my Ubuntu virtual machine via SSH, I have to type SSH -p as -port 222 user OSINT, the local IP address 127.0.0.1 and enter. Yes, I want to continue connecting. The RSA key fingerprint. Yes. And the OSINT password. That's my virtual machine password. As you can see, I'm connected via SSH on my Ubuntu. Okay, now to get back to our Ubuntu graphical desktop environment. Actually, we're gonna make this window a little bigger. Okay, the next step is the browser. Firefox is recommended as the privacy-aware browser. Actually, with Firefox, you have the ability to configure a lot of the privacy settings because Firefox natively respects your privacy and security more than other browsers. We're going to fire up Firefox web browser. Some of the configurations and settings changes can be done in the Firefox preferences, here on the right. But also, there is another method with the About column config option. So just enter About column config in the address bar where you traditionally type the website link you wish to visit. And press enter. You will receive a warning about making changes within this area, but you can proceed if you promise that you will be safe and that you accept the risk. To not get too much into the advanced configuration of the browser security and privacy settings, I would like to share two resources that helped me in configuring my Firefox. Actually, one tutorial, guide, I found it on Reddit, and the link is here. As you can see, this is a comprehensive tutorial, and I encourage you to check it out. The other one is on a site called restoreprivacy.com. Actually, just Google for the term Firefox Privacy Guide or configuration, and you will get a lot of the results on the subject. Now I would like to discuss the biggest benefit of Firefox, which is the abundance of helpful browser extensions called add-ons. There are a lot of them out there, and I will mention more about the add-ons as we go further with the course. But now I will just like to point out some of them. One of the must-have add-ons is the Firefox Multi-Account Container add-on. To get to the add-ons options, on the right side, open menu, select add-ons, and here you can search for them. As I have mentioned our first add-on, we are going to search for it. So multi minus containers and search. So here, Firefox multi-account containers. Here is the add-on. This is a really great add-on. I use it on a daily basis. Actually, right now I have it in production as I'm recording this course. Multi-account containers allows you to separate your various types of browsing without needing to clear your history, log in and out, or use multiple browsers. The tabs can be completely isolated from each other. Simply click Add to Firefox. Since it requires your additional permissions, click Add to allow. And here is the add-on. You see an icon in the upper right corner of the Firefox browser. It appears as 3 squares and a plus character. Click on it, get started. No, we do not want to sync the containers right now. And just select the container you want to open. These all are pretty fine, but you can edit them. Let's take the personal one. As you can see, a new tab with the color. The personal color has been opened. This feature is great because tabs, believe it or not, talk to each other. Some travel website knows you have Facebook and maybe it will grab some Facebook info about you or your activity that you weren't even aware of. This is crucial when doing open source intelligence investigations. You do not wish to use some service for which you are already logged into or something, automatically your investigation stops being that discreet. The next must-have add-on is called HTTPS Everywhere. Allow me to show you. Again, in the search add-on search box, here it is. So HTTPS Everywhere forces sites to give out their HTTPS version of themselves, if available, of course. And if they do not have it, you get a big red flag warning about it. HTTPS makes your browsing more secure, and I think that is something on what I have to put an emphasis, especially in the OSINT realm. While we are here, I'm gonna simply add it to Firefox. Now I would like to mention a few of the add-ons I find useful on a daily basis for my OSINT investigations. But I have to say it again, there are a lot of them out there and you have to figure out what works best for you and your OSINT investigations. So look up an add-on called uBlock Origin, that is a script blocker. Then EXIF Viewer for viewing image metadata. Then the add-on called FireShot for documenting screenshots of websites. Then the add-on KeePassXC browser add-on, which we will mention later in the course. That's an integration of password manager KeePassXC. Now that we have a working stable Ubuntu virtual machine ready for our OSINT activities, we can proceed with the studies. Just a side note, when I have finished with all the configurations, I have made another snapshot in VirtualBox and I named it Added Firefox, just for us to have another point in time in which we can go back if we mess something up with Ubuntu. In the next video, we will cover the note-taking and password part of OSINT. Believe it, it may sound simple, like taking notes and saving passwords, but that quickly becomes a rabbit hole if not careful. See you in the next video. Hi everyone, and welcome to the section number 4 called Notes and Password Managers. As the title suggests, now we will go through some of the tools that are probably best for the note-taking and password managing tasks in regard to your OSINT investigations. First, we will talk about a very important topic of any OSINT investigation, and that is the note-taking part. Actually, it is not all about writing, there are a lot of screenshot and bookmark taking involved. Notes are often a very tricky part, or to better say, a potential trap for all your OSINT investigations. I have a question for you now. Did this ever happen to you? You were watching a video on YouTube and an hour later you ended up on a completely different topic and you can't even remember how you got there. That is the note-taking rabbit hole of OSINT about which I'm talking about. Everything looks great when you start, but only after a few sources which could all look similar, you could get lost and unable to retrace your steps. Personally, I like using a paper and a pencil, but to be honest, that is not efficient or optimal when I do my research on the internet. Now I would like to show you a few of the note-taking programs. When we get to the note-taking software, first you have a simple plain text editor, like Notepad on Microsoft or TextEdit on macOS. Actually, I would not recommend on using them as a main note-taking piece of software, rather as an additional one, because they do not have any real advanced features in themselves. They are designed to be just that, plain text editors without formatting. I always use them as a buffer note space to do copy-paste activities with the purpose to strip down formatting from the text. After that is a real digital note-taking tool from Microsoft. It is called OneNote. I have used OneNote for many years because it has almost everything you will need to write, copy, paste, screenshot, make process artwork, and so forth for your OSINT investigations. I stopped using it just because of the privacy issues and because it was forcing me to use the whole Microsoft online ecosystem. When it gets to note-taking and password storing by using password managers, I like them offline, without any syncing to the cloud. But it is definitely worth mentioning because many people work in companies where Microsoft's products are a must-use or a must-have. Just additionally, OneNote is also a cross-platform product, so you can use it on a macOS, iOS, and Android. Please allow me now to show you how it looks like. Here we are in my OneNote. So, I won't go talking about licenses and Office 365 and all that, because there is a possibility that what I'm telling you now won't be relevant when you watch this course, because licensing models tend to change often. So here is my OneNote app. I have already created a new notebook, and I have put the name OSINT 2020. And now, as you can see, since it has a sub-tree design, you have sections. Let's call this section case 01 with pages. Here's the page. I can call it, let's say, I will call it just profile. So, a great feature which I love and is very beneficial for data collection is the ability to accept that OneNote accepts just about any file type as pastes and insertions into a page. Allow me to show you. So if I take a PDF which I downloaded from the internet, I just drag and drop it here, and I will be asked, should I insert it as a file or as a printout? I will insert it as a file. Okay, this is a PDF sample which you can preview, and here you can add text almost anywhere, as you can see. Also, if you found something on the internet, a link, probably you can make a simple paste. Then use some insert tools like arrows to make graphical correlation. You can also insert pictures. Okay, this is just simple note taking, but I just wanted to show you the general idea of OneNote. Back to our note taking software. Next, I have to mention Standard Notes for you to check out. This is probably the best privacy-focused note-taking application out there. You can download it and try it for yourself on the site standardnotes.org. The application itself is open source with versions for macOS, iOS, Windows, Android, and Linux. A great thing about Standard Notes, besides its AES 256 encryption, is that you can both use it completely offline, or if you wish to make an account, you can use its sync features. Of course, there is a premium version that adds advanced features like multi-factor authentication and automated backups to your own cloud service of choice. But the standard one also covers a lot of your needed features. Next on the list is a cool named app. That is Hunchly. Hunchly. The website where is it located is hunch.ly. hunch.ly. This tool is not free, but the rabbit hole in which you could possibly go down won't be that deep if you use it, and I would like to show you a quick overview of this tool. Here we are back on our Ubuntu OSINT virtual machine. So, to get Hunchly, the first thing you need to do is go to the site hunch.ly and register for a free trial, and you will get a license file that will be needed to upload to the Hunchly app. At the present moment, the trial is 30 days. Download and install the Hunchly software. Also install the extension on your browser. And since Chrome is mandatory to use with Hunchly, we had to install Google Chrome and then get the extension to integrate Chrome with the Hunchly software. So don't forget to go to the Google's official web store for the extension, so there is no funny business. Actually, you will see a great instructional video how to install Hunchly on your operating system. The link will be available the moment you register for the trial. We did all that, and now we are going straight to the recording part of our web activity. As you can see, I already put Hunchly and Google Chrome on my dock to the favorites. We will fire up Google Chrome. And as you can see on the browser, in the upper right corner, there's a little icon where you can start to record your activity. We will enable Hunchly. Select Dashboard to open the Hunchly program. Okay, here's Hunchly. Here you can add, there are a lot of options, but as the first step, create a case in which the web activity will be recorded. So we're going to add a case, new case, and give it a name, first case, and save. Okay, now get back to the Chrome browser. Now in the Hunchly extension, I will choose the case. As you can see, first case that we previously created in the Hunchly app. So that will be the target where the web capture will be uploaded, and enable the capture. That is on now. As a first step, I'll go to code red.eccouncil.org. Look around a little bit, scroll, click something, view a couple of things. Just to be sure, when you start browsing that the connection to the Hunchly app is working, you can check the Hunchly app. And here, as you can see, I already have 2 pages viewed. Now I'll get back to the browser. Then maybe I'll go and search for something to see how that looks. How will that look in the report? I'll type in black hat. And here I will make a note with the right click. Something of interest. Save. Okay, I think we've done our research. It's not a big one, but just to show you. Go to the Hunchly extension, again in the browser, and turn the capture off. We're done with it. And now go back in the Hunchly app to see what have we captured. As you can see, we have the time for easier follow. Notes, which I did, one note. Actually, here in history, when I look at the page that I previewed, as you can see, I have the whole page here. I can even see the source code that is available. Okay, this was just a basic overview of this tool, and as you can see, the tool has a lot of options, and you can structure your captures, your findings very well here. So remember, by using this tool, you will never ever have to remember to take a screenshot, cut and paste a URL, or save documents while you do your investigations with the browser. And lastly, a really useful tool that allows you to inspect any website in an offline manner after you download it. The tool is called HTTrack. Now we will get back to our Ubuntu to get through the basic usage of the tool. Here we are on our virtual machine again. To install HTTrack, simply go to the terminal. And type sudo apt install HTTrack and enter. Type in your sudo password. Yes for confirmation. Wait a few moments. Okay, now that it is installed, let's try it out. We will also use the terminal for this. But before that, we have to go to the web browser to see our web page that interests us, that we will download, copy for offline use. I will use my blog, itnode.net. Just for you to see how the website looks like. Okay, we can go back. Clear our screen a little bit. So the command to copy the website is httrack space and then the target web page link. Mine will be www.itnode.net and press enter. This could take a while. I will now interrupt the process so we can see what has HTTrack downloaded. Okay. Again, we're going to clear the screen. So, the downloaded website will be in the home directory. Here it is. As you can see, it's a folder named www.itnode.net. And to check it out with Firefox, type Firefox www.itnode.net and press enter. Now you can now see the folder structure. The folder that interests us is sample page and index.html. As you maybe recall from before, this is the full web page that we previously watched online. Allow me to make an announcement of the next video. So we went over the note-taking part of OSINT with a few demonstrations of the tools, and in the next video we'll go through the password managers. Actually only one, but I will tell you all about it in the next video. See you there. Welcome back. In this lesson we will go through password managers, and as I have mentioned, I will show you only for which I think is the most appropriate one at present time. That password manager is called KeePassXC. In any of my security trainings, when I get to the password section, I always ask, Who likes passwords? I usually do not get a lot of positive answers, but there are elegant solutions that can increase the security of your personal and business digital environment and help your OSINT investigation in the end. Password managers are great while you conduct your online investigations because you are likely to create numerous different profiles and accounts for various services across the web. With a password manager, you will have a secure database which is unlocked only with that one password. That password should be something unique and very, very long, and by that I mean at least a 25 character long. I recommend to check the latest recommendation on passwords by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Now, just a few additional words about password managers. There are two main types of password managers, online and offline. I recommend offline, and I will tell you why by explaining the difference between them. An online password manager which stores your database on the internet is very practical and appealing since it has the ability to sync the password database to all devices over the internet. But if something goes wrong with the hosting provider or the place where the database is stored, you're exposing yourself to unnecessary risk. By keeping your password database locally on your computer, you're eliminating the entire attack surface, and that is the reason why I recommend the offline kind. Just as a side note, do not forget about web browser integration. It is easier if you can use that feature. Keep in mind, will your chosen password manager work with your browser, and if yes, how and where are your passwords stored? The thing is that we, humans, will probably always choose ease of use over security or a safer way. Now let's get back to our virtual OSINT machine and see how you can use that KeePass XC password manager. Here we are on our OSINT machine, and as I have mentioned, KeePass is a cross-platform app which works also on Linux. But the installation is a little bit different than on the Windows or Mac OS, so I'll also include a how-to of the installation in this video, although the installation process is not that complicated. We will use a terminal for the installation, so fire up the terminal and type sudo apt get install KeePass XC. Type the sudo password. Wait a few moments. And now the KeePass app, when the installation is done, the KeePass app should be available on the Linux's dashboard. In my case, from the Ubuntu's dashboard. So let's check it out. Here it is. I will right click it and add to favorites on the dock to add it to the dock. So when we fire up KeePass for the first time, we need to create a new database. So we can start filling up the database with our credentials. Select Create New Database. We're calling OSINT passwords. You can use the advanced settings here for encryption algorithm and other settings, but I will leave it all by default. If you remember, I previously mentioned to create the master password to be really complex and big and long, but I will not do that here, rather a simple one because we are only testing the app. So I'll put down the password. I like passwords, all lowercase. And done. Okay, now we are asked to save the KeePass database. I'm going to save it on desktop, keep the default name. Just to give you an additional advice, I would recommend you to write down that master password somewhere and store it in a safe place. Just if you lose or forget that password, you won't be able to access your database. As you can see, here is the root. Here's the default group called root. Let's create a new group entry. Right-click, new group, name, first case. You can even define an icon or use some other properties. Here is our first case. Now to add credential entries, right-click the first case space, new entry, and we're gonna add our first credential. We'll put down the title, some social network, username John, and for the password we will use the password generator option. As you can see, you can choose a password with the length, of course, and we'll use small, uppercase, lowercase letters, numbers, special characters, and so on. And also a great feature is the passphrase, which I would really recommend. You can choose the word count, and as you can see, the entropy here is increasing or decreasing. Usually 5 to 6 words is enough, but more is better. Just be sure that your service provider where you are putting your password in has the ability to save a long password. I will choose 7 and let's see our password. As you can see, also you have an option word separator, so it's pretty self-explanatory. You see, it's adding the separator. You can add space, whatever you want. We will leave it at the default. So here is our password, and press OK to save. Now when you run the app again, KeePass will open the last database you used and immediately ask for a master password. And now, after our note-taking and password managing section, we will continue our OSINT journey by covering search engines part of open source intelligence in the next video. So see you there. Hello everyone, and welcome to the section 5 called Search Engines of our little journey through open source intelligence. In the last section, we discussed and went through the note-taking and password managing part of OSINT investigations, and this section is dedicated to the first stop of almost any online open source activities, the search engines. If you immediately thought of Google when I mentioned search engines, you could not be that off course, but believe me, there are a lot of other great resources out there in the context of search engines, which we will cover now. Now I would like to do a quick overview of this section so you can learn what are we in for. Okay, our first stop is Google. And as you are probably familiar with, there are entire books dedicated to Google searching and Google hacking. Just to demystify Google hacking as a search activity, Google hacking or Google dorking is related to using advanced operators in the Google search engine to locate specific strings of text within search results. Mostly it is used in penetration testing and securing computer networks, and it could easily become an overkill for your investigation of someone's personal information via the search engine, but that is the way it works. I will show you the most popular and useful advanced search operators for your OSINT investigations, and a great resource for search engine inquiries that you can use. Remember, searching cannot break anything. Besides this advanced search operators, I will show you a great resource for Google search queries on exploit-db.com. After that, I will show you a quick overview how to create your own custom search engine based on the Google searches. Also, as additional tips, I will show you the good use of Google Images searches, then the iSearchFrom.com tool and the Wayback Machine, but won't spoil the fun on telling you now what they are. After Google, we will discuss other search engines, and I have to be honest here. Google is not my main search engine in any of my search-related activities. We'll go through the privacy-oriented engines and also the country-specific engines, because almost every bigger country has its own flavor of a search engine. And as a last topic, I left FTP or the File Transfer Protocol to cover, because I think that is one of the biggest overlooked or maybe forgotten parts of the internet when conducting searches. And you will see later what I mean by that. Hi and welcome back to our first hands-on video of the search engine section. Now I will demonstrate a few of the most useful advanced search operators you can use on Google to get the search results you want, plus a great resource for Google search queries. Here we are on our secure and private browser. As I have mentioned before, Google is our first stop, so let's go there. Okay, you will have a much better time finding what you're looking for if you learn some of the special keywords and symbols that search engines use. Our first one are the quotation marks, like this. Placing quotes around any search term tells Google to search exactly what you tell it to search. For example, when I type in learn open source intelligence and press enter, I get over 650 million results, and that is a lot. But when I put the search term learn open source intelligence in quotations, press enter, I get around 12,000 results, and that is much better, but still too much for me. Let's add the word about, so it goes quotation learn about open source intelligence and quotation. Now we get about 2300 results, and that is much better. Try this out with anything. I would recommend for you to use your name first. Now for the second advanced operator, and that is which I use a lot in any of my search engine activities, and that is the cite operator. Just let's clear this up. This search operator simply allows you to get results only from one website. It shows you only the results containing the search terms from one domain. Allow me to show you how is it used. Type cite column and now the targeted website or the domain. I'm gonna use code red.eccouncil.org space and the search term black hat and enter. As you can see in the search results, only the results from the code red.eccouncil.org domain are being shown. And there are only 24 results, which is great. Try putting the search term in quotations and see how that goes. Maybe you will be lucky and get only a few results. Let's clear this up again. And now one of my favorite operators, and that is the file type operator. This advanced search operator, when used, tells Google to only provide you results with a specific file type you included. Allow me to show you. I want to search only for PDF files in regard to the search term open source intelligence. So I will type file type column PDF as the file type of interest, space open source intelligence, and enter. we got a lot of results, but as you can see, we got only the PDFs in regard to our search term. This operator also works on the search engine Bing.com, just for you to have in mind. And now to show you the two search operators that I often use and that can make your searches easier and more efficient. And they are the OR and the hyphen operators. The OR operator searches for web pages containing one of two similar queries. It is used in uppercase characters. Type quotation EC council and quotation space OR space quotation code red quotation. It's pretty straightforward. With this, Google will give you the results from the search term EC Council or the search term Code Red. And now for the second operator, the hyphen. The hyphen operator is great to use when you want to exclude some content from appearing within the results. Let's try it. Type quotation mark, code red and quotation mark, space hyphen EC Council. As you can see, there is no EC Council mentioned in the search results. But when I remove the hyphen and press enter, the EC Council code red immediately appears all over the search results. This is very useful when you have to filter your search results when you look for some event or a person. Now, there are more advanced search operators, and I will just mention them for you to check them out after this video. The first one is in-URL column operator. With this operator, you can specify or you can focus only on the data within the URL or address of the website. After that, you have the in-title operator, in-title column. The in-title operator is similar to the in-URL operator, but only it finds pages with a certain word or words in the title of the website. Then also one of my other favorite operator is the cache operator. It's spelled C-A-C-H-E column. This operator provides you with a cached version of some website from a prior time. The main prerequisite here is that the Google did the index of the website sometime before. As I have mentioned, there are more of the search operators to use, but these would be the main ones I use in my investigations. And now to show you a quick look at a great resource for created Google search queries by other people. In your browser, go to the address exploit-db.com/google-hacking-database. And as it is described on the site, the Google Hacking Database, or GHDB, is a categorized index of internet search engine queries designed to uncover interesting and usually sensitive information made publicly available on the internet. I go here to get inspired. When I'm at a dead end or dead point with my search engine activities, I have to put a disclaimer here, or better to say, I have to emphasize something. Searching is okay, but accessing and visiting search results may not be. Please be careful not to get yourself in any trouble, and always consult with legal team when you're in doubt. And now, after our Google hacking, we are ready to go to the next step, and that is the Google custom search engine part that we will cover in the next video. So see you there. Again, we will use our privacy-aware browser, and as you can see, I'm logged in my Google account, because you have to have a Google account to use this feature, and of course you have to be signed in. So let's navigate to the custom search engine address, and that is google.com/CSE. And as you can see, probably you will be prompted to create your own first search engine if you never created one. So let's click get started, and here we are. We will add or type which site to search. That will be codered.ecouncil.org. As you can see, you can add additional sites to search. We will go with only one. And we will leave the default language at English and name our search engine. This is the default, but we will rename it Code Red 1. Sounds like a movie. And click on Create to create the search engine. That's it, and now we can access our custom search engine by going to this unique URL, which is found here. You can also add it to your site, or you can modify your search engine, but we will go directly to the search engine. And this is our unique URL in regard only to this custom search. And now, whatever we type in the search box will search only for results from the site provided in the beginning of our search engine creation. A practical example of usage would be to create a custom search engine that will only search through the social networks. Try it. Now in the next video we will cover two great resources for your investigations, and they're both related to Google in a way. Hello everyone, and welcome back. Now for a short overview of a couple of cool resources that you will probably use in your open source intelligence search activities. They're called Google Images, iSearchFrom.com, and the Wayback Machine. The first one is Google Images. This is pretty self-explanatory. Google provides you with the results of images based on your search term. Select images, and you will see all the images in regard to our search term OSINT. The biggest use of this search is when you do the reverse image search, and this will be covered later in the course. The main thing about Google Images is that this search will help you filter the results to those more likely to be related to the subject of search. Okay, that sounds a little bit too much words and complicated, but basically this is what it means. Now to get back to our tools, cool resources, I want to show you a cool tool called iSearchFrom.com. and that is the address of the site, isearchfrom.com. With this tool, you can simulate a Google search coming from a different location or device. This is very useful if you, for some reason, can't use or won't use a VPN. Maybe the most beneficial feature is the device options, where you can simulate from what kind of device type is your Google search coming from. Let's try it. Let's see how the search term OSINT looks when someone Googles from the States. The country will be United States. Language English. And for the device type, I will choose an iPhone. Search term OSINT. And click search. As you can see here are the results. Now I will get back and put the country, change the country to my country, home country, Croatia, and click search. And as you can see, there is a difference in the results. And that can be a good reference when investigating something on a global level. Okay, let's clear this so I can show you the other cool tool. A great tool with a cool name, the Wayback Machine. This also sounds like a movie title. The only thing is that it is located on the address archive.org/web/web.php. But it doesn't matter. Cut. This is a great tool to look at a website historically. From a practical usage perspective, let's say you need to acquire some info that you know it was on a site, but because of the GDPR or some other regulative, it had been taken off the site. With this kind of tool, you can maybe check it if it's available. Let's see how my blog, ITino, looked like sometime before. In the search box, type in https://itino.net and press browse history. And as you can see, the timeline when the Wayback Machine created snapshots of Itino, it's shown as it's displayed as a historical view. Let's choose the year 2013 and see how it looked like on June 8th. Okay, that is 7 years ago. Okay, you just open the website of interest, how it looks today, and you can cross-reference it with the looks from before. As you can see, clicking through the timeline at the top of the page, that will load the viewed page as it appeared on the date selected. Hi everyone and welcome to a short OSINT FTP search demonstration. I believe that you are familiar with the file transfer protocol, but if not, basically the file transfer protocol or FTP is designed to transfer computer files between a client and a server on a computer network. In our context, we will search for open publicly available FTP files. These servers are and should be secured with access credentials, but this is rarely the case, because simply it is overlooked. To conduct these searches, my suggestion is doing the manual method with searching Google for FTP information. Okay, once again, here we are on our private browser, and I will go to google.com. A custom search string will be required in order to filter unwanted information. If I were searching for any files including the term password in the title, I would use this query. In URL, that's INURL, column, FTP, which stands for search any files from FTP servers. Then space, hyphen or minus, in URL, column, parentheses, HTTP, pipe, HTTPS, close parentheses, which stands exclude any web pages with HTTP and HTTPS. Then space and the word password put in quotations. Now to repeat the whole query. In URL, column, FTP, space, hyphen, in URL, column, parentheses, HTTP, pipe, HTTPS, close parentheses, space, and the word password put in quotation marks. And enter. As you can see, we got something over 120,000 results, and that is a lot. You can also add other operators. For an example, let's add the file type operator to make it more interesting, and choose PDFs as the file type. So to repeat the whole query again, in URL, column, FTP, space, hyphen, in URL, column, parentheses, HTTP, pipe, HTTPS, and parentheses, space, the word password in quotation marks, space, file type, column, PDF, and enter. And now our results are something better. But I believe you get the general idea how useful this FTP search can be. There are websites that offer this kind of search services, and I would like to mention a couple of them, actually two of them. The first one is searchftps.org with a cool name. And I will show it right now. And that's the Napalm FTP indexer. That's the cool name I was mentioning. And the second one is located on mmnt.ru, which is a Russian FTP server that allows you to isolate search results by country that is hosting the content, which can get very useful. Of course, you can use the English version at the top. And my dear friends, that is it concerning search engines in the OSINT context. And now we will move on to the social media intelligence resources. So see you in the next section and in the next video for that matter. Bye. Hello everyone, and welcome back to section number 6 of our OSINT journey together, called Social Media Intelligence. You're officially something over halfway to the completion of this course, and I'm very excited with the sections remaining. As you know, it is pretty hard to meet a person who doesn't use the internet or who doesn't have some online account or more on social media sites. The usage of social media is mostly fun-like use, like playing games, socialize with people, and learn about almost anything you can imagine. In my opinion, there are two sides of this coin, so I can freely say fortunately and unfortunately Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and so forth have become an integral part of our lives, and open source intelligence is the thing that goes through all the data. Now let's make a quick overview. What are we going to talk about in this section? First is of course Facebook. Almost like Google in the previous section with the search engines. This is, from my point of view, probably the hardest topic to teach about because of the fast changes in the social media realm, especially Facebook. I have mentioned before that all of the tools in the context of OSINT have to be taken with caution, just because of the fast changing situations, with the tools' correct functioning. We will go over the proper new account creation, some tricks with the Facebook IDs, and of course I will provide you with materials for further studies on the topic. After Facebook, we will go through Twitter and its details, how to search, what tools to use, and so forth. Then we will go through a few demonstrations of specific data acquirement of LinkedIn information, Pastebin, and give bits of advice for searching other social networks like Snapchat and TikTok. But we will not forget about great resource of information like Reddit and Tinder, however funny it may sound to you at first. And the last topic of this section that we will cover are sock puppets, which is probably one of my favorite syntagms in open source intelligence. I won't spoil the fun on telling you more about them, so see you in the last video of this section where we will learn all about it. Now let's start with the first topic of our social media intelligence section, and that is Facebook. As I have mentioned, just like Google as the biggest search engine was our first stop, now is Facebook as the biggest social network in the world. Just before we dive into Facebook, I would like to share a cool fact with you. Did you know that there are more than 2.7 billion monthly active users on Facebook as of the second quarter of 2020? That is a pretty impressive number. Can't even imagine what would George Orwell say about that. And yes, I would definitely recommend you to read his book with the title 1984. If you read it, then you know what I mean by saying this. Okay, now, you are probably familiar with Facebook as a platform, and I won't go into details what it is and how it is used. Rather to say what you can potentially get out from Facebook in the open source intelligence context. A little bit of history. In June 2019, Facebook declined access to its great OSINT resource called the Facebook Graph. Google it with the word OSINT and you will only see how people's investigations got much harder. Facebook Graph was a great search engine on Facebook that was designed to give answers to user natural language queries rather than a list of links. This graph feature that was shut down was a combination of the big data acquired from its billions of users and external data and put it all into a search engine. Imagine how open source intelligence in the context of social media just get harder. Well, that is it. Just wanted to share that and recommend for you to check this important fact. Now in the context of OSINT and creating a potential new undercover/fake account also got a lot harder. For most new users, Facebook will require a cell phone number to send the verification text upon account creation. Google VoIP numbers do not work. They worked in the past. So I have a few recommendations when creating a new account because you can get easily banned from even accessing Facebook. First is do not use a VPN. Rather your real address, and if you're worried about privacy of your home IP address, I recommend on doing this on a public Wi-Fi. Also, do not do it on a Tor network. Second, use a real email address, no disposable or one-time limited emails. Rather open an email on a well-known email service like Gmail or Yahoo. And lastly, be sure to use a clean browser, without cache and cookies from any other services because they might have something in themselves that will communicate with Facebook. Remember the Firefox add-ons multi-accounts containers. And now for a few tips how to find very important information about any Facebook profile, group or page. And that is their IDs. Those IDs are usually needed when conducting searches using other Facebook-related tools. And believe me, when you dive into the tools for gathering Facebook data, IDs are pieces of information you will want to learn. This data is usually hidden, but if you know where to look, then you will be on the right track. Okay, now, first is the profile ID. Go to the user's profile and right-click on the web page to view the source code with your browser. Through the Search Web Page tool, search for things like profile_ID. The same applies to pages. Look for page_ID. But with the group ID, it's a little bit different. You need to search for the group ID written together, no underscore. Additional resources for further learning about techniques in regard to Facebook research is osintcurious.us, like OSINT Curious, which has a lot of different OSINT tips and secrets of the trade. Then there is Plessas.net, that's plessas.net/Facebook Matrix, which also has great resources for Facebook research. And lastly, Mr. Michael Bazel's inteltechniques.com. This is maybe my favorite because Mr. Bazel's OSINT research focuses on the privacy side of OSINT and how to protect yourself. But he also has great resources in regard to social media. Now again, I would like to share a fun fact with you. Did you know that Facebook removed 3.2 billion, yes billion, fake accounts in a period of 6 months in the year 2019? At first I thought this information was simply not real or misleading in the worst case. But when you come to think of it, it makes sense. Personally, I know persons who have dozens of Facebook profiles and they aren't even involved in open source intelligence in any way, or in cybersecurity for that matter. Now to get back to our course and the announcement of the next video. We'll talk about Twitter, so see you there. Hi and welcome back. After Facebook, we will go through Twitter from an OSINT resource perspective. Just when you look at politicians and governments, a lot of communication is being done through this platform. Twitter is like a microblog service, and that is probably the main feature of it. Now again, me with the fun fact, but I think it is relevant to better understand services and the techniques we apply to these services for OSINT investigations. This is a little bit older number. I figure it can now only be a higher value. The total number of tweets sent per day in 2018 was over 500 million. Even then, that is a lot. Okay, so we said Twitter is a microblogging service that limits most posts to 280 characters. It is based on following other users to see what are they announcing through Twitter. Maybe they want to share some thoughts, how they feel, what is happening, and so forth. The Twitter premise is very simple. Share small chunks of your life for all your friends or followers to see. I won't get into the psychology of people, why this need even exists, but I would recommend on checking this topic as well. Currently, Twitter is not that strict on the rules for creating an account, but I would recommend almost the same ideas as for the Facebook account creation. And first would be, do not use a VPN. Always use a clean browser without cache and cookies, and use a proper real email address. Now regarding the searches. A good starting point is the Twitter's built-in search option located on the twitter.com/search-advanced link. With this search, you can look up specific people with specific keywords and locations. The only problem with the search is that the results are mostly 7 to 10 days old. So if you're looking for some recent Twitter data, this is a good starting point. Also, as other search engines have their search operators to refine your searches, Twitter also has those operators. They are to column, from column, quotations, since column, and until column. As you can see, this can be very handy if you know at least some additional information about some event or a person that you are researching. For an example, if you know you are looking for Tino Šokić in quotations until some specific, then you would probably acquire that data with no problem. Additional tools that I would like to mention are allmytweets.net. This is a cool web tool where you can view all public tweets posted by any Twitter account on one page. After that, a Twitter tool called Follower.me, Foller.me, whose purpose is to do the analysis of the Twitter public account data like profile information, number of tweets and followers and so forth. After Follower, we have the tool called TweetMap that is located on the address omnisci.com. That's omnisci.com/demos/tweetmap. This is a cool tool that can check tweets location, and you can compare that to the posts or tweets match with the person's real location. And the last tool that I would like to recommend is sleepingtime.org. Well, this is rather an interesting approach to investigating people who use Twitter. By using an exact Twitter profile name, you can learn the average time when the Twitter user sleeps. I think the initial intention of this site was having some fun, but as you can see, it can be quite useful when you encounter this data in your investigations. Okay, now that we have covered Twitter, and hope you will get some new ideas for further investigating that social platform, now we are going to cover a few great online resources for acquiring information in regard to LinkedIn, Pastebin, and of course we will mention some other social networks. So see you in the next video. Hello and welcome back. After the big social networks overview, I would like to cover some of my favorite OSINT resources when doing investigations. We will talk about the most popular business social network out there called LinkedIn. After that, we will discuss Pastebin, which is a website or rather a web service that allows users to share plain text writings through posts, and I'll show you why the OSINT community also loves it, or from recently, not so much anymore. And finally, I will go over a couple of social networks with suggestions how to conduct your search activities on them. Okay, if you're not familiar with LinkedIn, then I will tell you what it is. It is a social network dedicated to business and professional interactions. A user has a profile, similar to his resume, where they present their skills, employment history, maybe some projects they worked on, and similar things. Companies can also have their profile pages, and that is also an open source intelligence goldmine, because usually companies have a list of employees that have LinkedIn profiles associated to their pages, and that is very great. Currently, and we are in the middle of 2020 now, LinkedIn has over 650 million members. That is a lot of business. And just as a fun fact or a side note, LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft, and Microsoft bought LinkedIn in 2016 for $26.2 billion paid in cash. Now that we made a quick overview of the platform, let's talk about how can we search through LinkedIn. If you do not have a profile, then you're pretty much convicted to Google and some other methods which may or may not work, since LinkedIn is always evolving to protect its members. As a LinkedIn member, active LinkedIn member, you have the ability to control your privacy and how will your profile look to the public, so that is also a thing to consider. LinkedIn has a search box where you can search for profiles, companies, and posts. Currently, the search box when logged in allows you to use some advanced search operators like OR, to include one or more terms together, then the operator NOT, NOT, to exclude a particular term, then the use of quotations to look up for exact search words and parentheses to combine search terms. As I have previously mentioned, LinkedIn does not allow for you to preview someone's profile without logging in. But currently you can use an open source intelligence technique which I would like to share with you. Also, just a side note, one of main LinkedIn features is whenever you visit or view someone's profile, your visit gets recorded and the profile you visited will get notified about it. Here we are in our private browser yet again. We need to access the profile link via our search engine. I will use my favorite search engine, startpage.com. And I will use my own LinkedIn profile as an example. So go to Start Page, search for Tino Šokić, or Sokic in English, LinkedIn. As you can see, it is almost the first result. Usually LinkedIn doesn't allow you to see even the public profiles of a person without signing in or by having an account. So to kind of help yourself and see that profile, copy the profile link, right click, copy the link, and go to the Google's mobile friendly tester site that is located on the search.google.com/test/mobile friendly, and paste that previously copied LinkedIn profile link. And test the URL. Do a checkup if needed. Now it's fetching the data. Okay, now as a final step, take the HTML code on the right, copy it entirely to the clipboard, go to the HTML viewer site that is located on the codify.org/HTML viewer. Or you can use any similar site that enables you to check your HTML code live. There are more than a few of them out there. As you can see, in the left column, called HTML input, paste the profile HTML. Click Run, and voila! In the right column is the public LinkedIn profile. As you can see, at least on my LinkedIn profile, you can get all kinds of information about me or about your real target. Please don't let it be me. And as additional information, I have to mention regarding another thing in regard to LinkedIn and with searching of LinkedIn. There are a lot of scraping tools out there, and one of the great resources, web resources for that, is github.com. You should really check it out. Now to get back to our LinkedIn slide, The last thing to use as a search tool for LinkedIn is simple Google Dorking, and that could also be a goldmine if you use it properly. Here I have put an example and I want you to try it out. Use the Google search operator site column. The example goes site column linkedin.com space, and for the search term I have put manager at Toyota, put in quotations. Try it out and see how it goes. Now we are going to cover Pastebin. As I have mentioned before, Pastebin is a website or a web service that allows users to share plain text writings through posts. The website is mainly used by programmers to store pieces of source code or configuration information, but anyone can use this service. The main premise behind Pastebin is to make it more convenient for people to share large amounts of text online. So the first step here is Google Dorking, or the use of search operators to get the results you wish from a site like Pastebin. I have put down probably the simplest one around. The example, site column pastebin.com space search term login, put in quotations. And this query will search for the term login in the whole pastebin.com site. I suggest you tweak it to narrow the results down. When talking about the tools you can use to scrape, look up, and search for things on Pastebin, even through its paid API or application programming interface, which is a software intermediary that allows two applications to talk to each other. Just to give you an example, API is each time you use an app like Facebook, when you send a message or when you check the weather on your phone through an application, you are using an API. Now to tell you why it just got complicated with Pastebin. As I was preparing this video to show you a Python script that scrapes Pastebin without the use of a paid API, I have learned that Pastebin has removed its search functionality as well as the API, and I have to say that the whole OSINT community got a little sad over it, as it was a great threat defense resource. The search option was really great and no search is possible anymore, which also stands for the API. You cannot whitelist any new IPs to do scraping. Now you are doomed to using the Pastebin's Twitter bot to check out for the latest pastes. But I think probably Google Dorking will be the tool that will continue to exist, at least for some time. This is a typical example how some OSINT methods and a technique gets shut down and you have to invent workarounds to help you with your investigations. And now for the other social networks and communities. I will not go into details of each one, rather I will give you tips on where to start with your investigations on the topic. First is Instagram. Since Instagram is not to put aside because of its ever-growing popularity, Instagram is a photo sharing service that is owned by Facebook. Since search engines are my first stop when starting any kind of investigation, I would suggest simply doing Google Dorking or Google hacking. Just an example, I have again put down the site operator. The thing about Instagram is that it doesn't have a search feature on its homepage, so it's not that simple. If you want to use Instagram's search database, you must connect directly to an account of your interest. Next is a social network called Snapchat, which is a mobile app and Snapchat's cut. Next is a social network called Snapchat, which is a mobile application. And Snapchat's premise is that by default, any message or video you send is made available to the receiver for only a short time before it becomes inaccessible. There is a cool tool located on the map.snapchat.com, and with it you can see snaps of events, breaking news, and more from around the world. I know this sounded like a commercial, but this is the official Snapchat description of the tool. Then there is Tumblr, What Tumblr is, I will read the official description because maybe that represents it best. Tumblr lets you effortlessly share anything. Post text, photos, quotes, links, music, and videos from your browser, phone, desktop, email, or wherever you happen to be. Essentially, it looks like a microblogging platform. Tumblr appears to have a younger user demographic, so it is good to keep that in mind. And also, Google Dorking is your friend here. Then TikTok. TikTok is a mobile app that allows users to create short videos with various effects and audio content. The application comes from China, where it got its big popularity and then spread across the world. Here also your friend is Google Dorking and reverse image lookup, about which we will talk in the next session. Then after that, there is an online community called Reddit, which is very similar to some social network, and that is why I'm mentioning it here. Reddit has become such a big thing that its discussions, reviews, and other content are even cited on the mainstream media. The site itself has its search option, which you can use, but I have often found that playing around with the URLs gave me better results than the search box. Also, a great approach is to post something of interest for your investigation on Reddit, and you will probably get an answer in a matter of minutes. Lastly, I would mention dating websites as an information resource, and of course Tinder is one of the biggest ones. Basically, Tinder is a service that connects you with people located in your geographical vicinity. Some people call it a dating app, some a hookup app, but the fact is that it is very popular, and you can also use it to help you in your own investigations. I will not go here in detail how to search and use it, just to give you an idea or an angle from which you can start your potential investigations. And now, maybe you remember at the beginning of this section I have mentioned that sock puppets is one of my favorite syntagms in open source intelligence. And in the next video that is dedicated to sock puppets, I'm going to tell you all about it. So see you there. Hello everyone and welcome back. Here we are with our sock puppets topic. As I have mentioned, this is a fun topic, but as always to be used with caution. And now please allow me to tell you what it is before we jump into the details of it. To tell you what a sock puppet is, I would like to share a Wikipedia definition of it, which I think covers it best. A sock puppet is an online identity used for purposes of deception. And that's it. It is a fake profile on social media to use it in the open source intelligence context. That profile could be used to connect with relevant people in your field of interest, to get some information out of them, or to simply redirect people's opinions about something in the other direction, but it is imperative it cannot be linked back to you. A sock puppet takes time to grow it and to make its digital life credible. On social networks, join different groups, comment different events and posts like real people. Actually, it's okay to have a few social profiles, one on LinkedIn and one on Facebook with real history, pictures from different places, and so on. You probably encountered a month-old profiles that started to comment and talk really convincing about something, maybe argue something. That kind of profiles probably won't fool anyone, but can still stir things up. I also have to mention that since I made my first version of this open source intelligence course, where I have also talked about sock puppets, more than a few potential sock puppet candidates contacted me on my social media platforms. Now I will give you a few tips how to create a sock puppet with a cool sock puppet story that really happened and was presented at the Black Hat conference in USA in 2010. That example is called the Robin Sage story, and here's the link for you to check out. I recommend to go through this case study, where you will probably get the best overview of a sock puppet profile and its purpose. Many people fell for it. The profile had a few gaps, but was overlooked by most. It got job offers, contacts, date requests, and even intel on operational security. Just as an interesting fact, her profile picture is from a porn site. After that, it's good to have, or better to say, have a great profile picture, because it is getting harder to have a fake one, a good one at least. But here are a couple of resources for you to check out. There's a site called thispersondoesnotexist.com. When you come to think about it, such a lengthy domain and so easy to remember. Thispersondoesnotexist.com is a machine learning project that synthesizes artificial samples of images and produces artificial authentic images. I recommend for you to check it out. An additional side note about this. I have mentioned that it is getting harder to have a good fake profile picture, and the reason to that is that currently some social networks can spot a fake profile picture, so you're immediately banned. They can even ask for a video of you as the profile owner. But I really think that is a big invasion of your privacy. The other resource is on a domain called generated.photos. All the images here have been generated without human intervention through a machine learning process. Do check its terms of use because there is a paid option included also, but it is definitely worth taking a look at it. After the profile pictures, you will need a good burner email address, if possible. Actually, more and more online services are banning those kind of email services, but you can always give it a try. At the present moment, it seems that fastmail.com works best for my needs. Also, do not forget to have a clean machine, and that is your open source intelligence machine. Just to keep in mind that a browser can contain a lot of additional information that could get linked back to you, the real you, if not careful. Then, more and more services ask for a phone number, and I would suggest not to use a real one, rather a burner-like phone, maybe some Google Voice number. But usually, and more it is the case that Google Voice numbers don't work, so keep that in mind. And lastly, I would like to mention the IP location, the geolocation. And by that I mean on the IP from which you will create that email account or you will do that sign up to the service. I would recommend for you not to use a VPN or other IP masking services while you do that, because that is one of the main red flags or reasons your account might get on their radar as a fake one. After our social media intelligence section, we are ready for our new section, and that is the section called Email Addresses, Usernames and Images, where we will try to demystify where to look for that kind of information online. So see you in the next video. Hi everyone, and welcome to the section number 7 called Email Addresses, Usernames and Images. This is of course all to be taken in the open source intelligence context. Now let's do a quick overview of this section, although it is pretty self-explanatory and obvious what are we going to do here now. We will discuss how to research, acquire data and information with the tools to get email addresses, then to do username lookups, and how to approach images with our open source intelligence way of thinking and with the appropriate tools to get the job done. As you can see, I have put all of these 3 resources in one video, even with a short hands-on demonstration about images. So as first, I will start with the email addresses. Actually, the thing I will not do is to start with a statistic of how many email addresses there are in the world. Okay, an analogy for that kind of estimation would be an answer to a question, how many galaxies are there? One of the answers is a number between 100 and 200 billion galaxies. Now let's see what are we up against in the OSINT context of email addresses. As you know, when you look up for someone's real name and real address, that can get you easily feeling frustrated, especially if your target has some common name. Go and try it. Pick a common name in your country and Google it. In my example, A common Croatian name, like Ivan Horvat, returns over 4.5 million search results. I just wanted to show you how common it was, even in my country. Now, when I put that common name, Ivan Horvat, in an email format, ivan.horvat@gmail.com, and search for it, I get about 171,000 of results, which is still too much. But when I put that search term in quotation marks, I get about 190 results, and that is a good place to start from. Actually, my first stop when looking for someone's email address is the search engine. Remember to check out multiple search engines like Bing, Startpage, DuckDuckGo, even the country-specific search engines like Yandex or something, if your target is foreign. Also, be free to make an assumption. You may know about one address, but not for some other. It can be productive to make assumptions of possible email addresses and use the verifiers to see if they exist. Now I will mention a few tools that worked and still do for my investigations. But just before I mention these tools, I would like to point out is that the searches for free-based email addresses like Gmail or Yahoo is very difficult. There are different technical limitations. Why is that? Take Gmail or Google Mail. Well, it is in their best interest to be secure, and they are investing a lot in their cyber defense. The security of other business emails only depends on the fact how much are they investing in their cyber defense, and that is not that much in most cases. One of the facts about email addresses, most of the email search services do not work or give you incorrect results. Just for you to be aware not to rely on just one tool. Always double, triple check everything. First that I would like to point out is truemail.io. It's spelled trumail.io. As you can see on my example, I put down an email spam@doberdan.net, which is related to my business account. The results displayed here indicate that the domain provided doberdan.net is configured for email and the server is active. It also identifies that the address is a catch-all, which may indicate a burner account on the target domain. The results definitely confirm that we are not talking about a free webmail account and that this is not a disposable temporary email. The second service is called Verify Email, located on the verify-email.org address. As you can see on the same example, this service provides a lot less data, and it says about the same target email we previously checked that it is bad. This is a perfect example why we need to double check things. Actually, this is a correct and existing email address. The only thing we received here that is correct is that the email server is a catch-all server. Next is a service called Email Hippo, located on the tools.verifyemailaddress.io address. This service also gave me a questionable answer, but at least it was with more info. The target address is labeled as unverifiable, but I went to the More Info tab and I found out more details like who is the service provider, is it a catch-all server, and so forth. In fact, this email address that I tested is an alias address, and only one service gave me a more complete answer to the question, is the email address even valid? And now, next is the email format question. Besides the assumptions you can do, like is it name.surname, just name at domain, or the first letter of the target's name and then their surname, there are a lot of combinations you could try for that email format. A good starting point is if you have the target's username from some social network. People tend to have the same usernames for every service. If the assumption strategy did not work or it was an overkill for your needs, you may want to consider a service like Email Format. You can get to it by visiting email-format.com. When you put down the target domain, you will get a list of potential email formats. Actually, it will give you a confidence level value. Is the format right or not? There's another service I think it's worth mentioning in the email formats realm, and that is Hunter.io service. It is a paid service, but it has a free limit you can use. I like the thing that it mentions a source where it found the target email format. And now the last approach to get or verify emails is the compromised approach, as I stated in the slide. You're probably aware that emails are compromised regularly in various data breaches and data leaks. Malicious hacker groups often publish email databases for public use and their corresponding passwords. This is usually done on a service called Pastebin that we covered earlier. I will mention two websites that provide this information, but there is more of them like this out there. They often get shut down because this is not completely legal or ethical in a way. There are two reasons why you should look here. First, if you learn that the email address of your interest has been a part of some breach, then it is obviously valid. And the second reason that usually this service gives you, in what data breach has the email been found? Is it LinkedIn or Dropbox or some other third service data leak? We will talk later in the course in more detail about data breaches and leaks and how can they be relevant to your investigations. Sites I have listed here are haveibeenpwned.com and thehashed.com. I encourage you to check them out, but with caution. And I will move on to the usernames. When it comes to usernames, they can be really super easy to find or really super hard to find. Hope you will have the first scenario in most cases. As in the previous searches for email addresses, here with usernames I would also suggest a search engine approach on finding that username of your interest. A good starting point is if you already have the target's email address, because people have the tendency to use the same username on many different places. I would suggest to visit Google, Bing, Yandex, or even other search engines, because you never know which search engine will provide you with needed information. Concerning the online username search engines, I will mention a few of them, actually 5. First is the checkusernames.com website, which is not my first pick when doing investigations, but I have listed it as the first one here, because then you will understand the second better. As I'm aware, the checkusernames.com service relies on the service Knowem, but it links directly to the target's profile when one is identified. As you can see, I'm searching for the username Tino, which is not that good to search for because this username is definitely more popular in use than the name .lastname model. Next is Knowem.com, which is usually my first stop when I go investigating usernames. Knowem is one of the comprehensive search websites for usernames and many sites rely on their searches, just like previously mentioned service checkusernames.com. As you can see, I have selected to find Tino on the most popular online services. It shows 25 of them. With Knowem, you can spend some time on finding the best username that might be used. With Knowem, you can spend some time on finding the best username that might be used by your target. Then I have listed the site usersearch.org. This site has the potential to give you maybe the most accurate results because it returns a list of identified profiles matching the target. The basic search gives you the results of 45 most popular websites. Next is the site and username search engine called namewine.com. That's TinyVine.com. It allows you to begin typing any partial username and it immediately identifies registered accounts within the top 10 social networks. You can have a good use of this search when you are not sure about the correct spelling of the username. You simply add or remove a character and you get immediate results. And last on my list is social-searcher.com. This username search service, besides its core business of providing where is the target's username being used, has a possibility to monitor and alert you when the username of your interest changes or comes up on some social platform. And that's a cool feature. And as before, the last approach I would like to mention is the compromised one. Actually, for you to identify a target's username through a publicly available breach. You're probably aware that, as with emails, usernames are also compromised regularly in various data breaches and data leaks. Usernames are accompanied along with their passwords, hashed or in clear text. I will mention haveibeenpawned.com again and dehashed.com. I had better luck with dehashed. The process is simple, similar to the previous instructions. Enter your target's username with the intent to discover any data breaches queries. Here you can also make assumptions of the usernames as you investigate. For example, let's say you have an email name@example.com. You can also try firstname.lastname, then lastname.firstname, only the first letters of them, and so forth. You get the idea. We will talk later in the course in more detail about data breaches and leaks, so I won't bother you much with them in detail. And now let's move on to the images part. As you know, images are all around us. Almost every device has a camera. Actually, I don't know how have you noticed, but when they are advertising mobile phones, they put a lot of effort on the camera part. Today's phones at least have 2 or 3 cameras. As you can presume, digital photography has created a whole new element for the open source intelligence analysis. We'll go through where to look for photos, what tools to use to do a reverse image lookup, actually do demystify what a reverse image lookup is. Then we will cover the image's metadata, because almost every image has additional technical data about itself. And for last, how to approach an image from a forensic perspective. As always, search engines are my and your and everyone's first stop, maybe. Almost every search engine has an option to search for images that they have indexed. I will mention Google Images, which are located on the images.google.com address. The second best source for images, in my opinion, is bing.com/images. Bing may not be as good as Google, but it should never be overlooked. And those two search engines in the image search context are often my go-to places. Actually, I think it is better to do searches via the search engines than to go directly to some site with images like Picasso. The key point here is that a good search engine will keep track of anything published to the internet. And concerning the reverse image searches and the image's metadata or EXIF data, allow me to show you what is it all about. They say an image is worth 1,000 words, but if the same image shows up all over the internet many times, is that number of words multiplied? Okay, I'm just kidding there. Reverse image search is a search engine technology that takes an image file as input query and returns results related to the image of interest. One of the engines and tools like that is a service called TinEye. Okay, here we are in our favorite privacy-aware web browser, Firefox, and we will visit tineye.com. That's TINEYE.com. And as you can see, it is pretty much straightforward process. This reverse image search tool will show you where is your image found elsewhere online, the exact duplicate. You can upload or enter an image URL. I will take an image URL from the search box. I will use the Notre Dame fire picture from Wikipedia. And paste and search. Now Tina will do his thing, and here it is. As you can see, immediately we got over 30 results, actually 36 to be exact. Every source is linked and listed here. This is also a great for fact-checking methods. Maybe someone is faking something which you suspect, and you can use this method to find out that their picture has been used maybe 10 times on all over the internet somewhere. The second thing I would like to show you, actually first to talk about it, is how much additional information can an image contain. That information is called the EXIF data, the metadata of an image. EXIF stands for Exchangeable Image File Format. When you take a photo with your mobile phone camera, that picture is usually stored in the JPEG format on your phone. And besides the information about how the picture looks like, additional data is also stored. That data may or may not contain when the picture was taken, with what kind of camera, what were the technical settings like color, file size, encoding process, and so forth. But there's one very important thing and data about it, and that's the geolocation data, or the exact GPS coordinates where the picture was taken. Here's a great tool called Jeffrey's Image Metadata Viewer, which was developed by Mr. Jeffrey Friedel. You can find it on the address exif.regex.info/exif.cgi. Okay, it's not the friendliest URL, but believe me that is pretty irrelevant when you do your investigations and when you need some data. So let's check it out. Okay, again, here we are in our browser, and let's close this and visit the EXIF tool from Mr. Jeffrey Friedel on the address we previously mentioned, exif.regex. Okay, and as you can see, it's simple. You can upload or enter the image URL. I have prepared a picture, so I will copy paste the URL. Prove that I'm not a robot. Okay, we need bicycles. And view image data. Okay, now, as you can see, we got a lot of data here, and one of the most important information is the location. Where was the picture taken? You even have an option to go directly to Google Maps with the provided coordinates. I also have to say that this metadata can be stripped down with ease. There are a lot of online tools out there that will remove the additional images data. And okay, I have a task for you. Try to see the EXIF data of images on your mobile applications like WhatsApp or Viber or even Facebook. Just give it a try. Will this work? And back to our slides. And lastly, concerning images, I would like to mention a real forensic approach to images. One of the tools is called Photo Forensic. The address on where the tool is located is 29a.ch. That's 29a.ch/photo-forensics. This site allows you to upload a digital image, and then with a set of tools it allows you to investigate the uploaded photo. I will only mention a few of the tools that are I will only mention a few of the tools that are included. First, you have the magnifier. That is a tool with which you can see small hidden details on an image. It simply magnifies the picture to the smallest pixel size so you can better see if something is odd looking with the image. You can also apply different contrasts while looking at the pixels. Then you have a tool called Clone Detector that highlights copied regions inside the uploaded image. This insight can be a good indicator that a picture has been manipulated. Minimal similarity determines how similar the cloned pixels need to be to the original picture. Then the tool error level analysis compares the original uploaded image to a recompressed image. With this method, you can potentially notice a difference in the image. Is some section darker or brighter? There are more tools inside this cool forensic image tool, and I really encourage you to go through the help section of the Photo Forensic site to learn about it better. And now we are ready for my personal favorite section, OSINT the IT systems. And the reason to that is because basically I'm an IT guy, or better to say a cybersecurity professional who derived from the system engineering field. So see you in the next session and see you in the next video. Bye.